Hi everyone, and welcome to a new session with Code with Sally. This time we have a very special session for you. We have great speakers, Nikki and Warren. I want to thank you so much for being with us and agreeing to come and give us from your time, experience, and knowledge and share it with the community. Um, Nikki is a Salesforce architect and she is a Red Woman coach. We met in True North Dreaming early this year, and I'm really happy and glad to have you with us. She will be sharing some use case involving Agentforce Vibes, flows, Visualforce pages, and LWC. So I'm super excited myself to learn more about this use case. And we have Warren Walters as well. He is a great friend and great mentor. He's a Salesforce MVP and solution architect. Again, Warren is explaining to us the MCPs in an easy way for beginners, like anyone who doesn't know MCP, what is it, like to understand it more, because it became like a very common word to hear and everyone is using it. So it's nice to learn and understand it more. And he will be using some great MCPs today in his demo. So again, I'm very excited and looking forward to learn from both of you. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think we'll start first with ladies first. And Nikki, if you can share your screen, introduce yourself, and Warren will move to your demo after Nikki. And thank you so much both in advance.
All right, I'll start. Oops, hang on. I'll just give an introduction first. So I've been on the platform for about 23 years, and I've been working independently for about 20 of those years, doing different kind of implementations, code, clicks code, all the things. And I've been playing around with with Vibes. I've got lots of experience from Apex Visualforce days and sort of touching into LWCs, not as much. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Vibes can help me up my game on that side. So that was my scenario that brought me here. So I'm going to share my screen. And if anyone has questions, Sally, or chats, you can just jump in. I'll just start with a quick where can you get it, in case I'm not sure the level of everybody here, but so you can use Agentforce Vibes through the browser. You can log in. It used to be called Code Builder, if anyone was working with that. And one of the clarifications is that you can get to Vibes through the browser on any paid org, so that's production org or any sandbox, but not the developer orgs and playgrounds, as far as I understand. And then you can, in your setup, you can disable it or enable it, and you can also reset environments through there. And then you can also use it in VS Code. It's a free extension, and that you can connect to any org. So there's no limitation to a paid org or not. I'm going to do my demo in the browser, just in case anyone hasn't seen it there. And it sounds like Warren's going to be working in his VS Code quite a bit, so that'll be a good change. So just to set the stage for my demo, I've got a Visualforce page that renders as a PDF. So someone made a nice document for me over here, a sales order. It's based on the work order object, and I want to display it in a window with an option for people to download it. And I want it kind of in a flow, so it sits in front of the screen in a modal window. That's what I'm looking for. And I'll jump right in. So here is my work order. I already have a button with the Visualforce page, and when I
We
click
don't
it, it's not bad.
see this, Nikki, like we see just the
Oh,
slides.
oh, okay, let me change that.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's weird. That's okay, thank you. Thought I was sharing this screen. There we go. Okay, so here we are at the work order. So I have a button here that just connects to that Visualforce page that I've got, and it's okay. It gives me the document and I can download it, but it's a bit weird because I lost my work order, and I guess I could click back to get to it or go back to my list view, but I wanted to sit on top of it with a nice view. So this is where I'm starting. So as I mentioned, in your setup, you can get to Agentforce Vibes. You can use this here extension to turn it on and off. And then this is where you go to reset it if you already had one going. And otherwise, you come in here to open it up. And if it's first time you're using the environment, it takes a few minutes, well, not a few minutes, some seconds to set it up, and you have to click on your agreement. Hang on a second here.
While it's loading, there is a special type of developer orgs that allow having the web browser. I leave in the chat in the comment in the YouTube description this one. It's not the normal one that we use. It's a special one that it comes with the license and enabled the web-based if anyone wants to use it.
Oh, great to know. Okay, so I'm going to agree to the terms and start building. Okay, so I'm going to put up my first prompt in here. So I'm asking for, I want a button on the work order object to generate a PDF using Visualforce page, and I put the name of the Visualforce page in, and have an interface where the user can click to download or return to the work order object, the work order record. So that's what I'm going to ask. Now, I'll warn you that I've done this a few different times and gotten totally different results. I'm hoping that today we'll get what it is I'm expecting. Okay, wow, lots of stuff. So it's giving me the plan. It's thinking about what to do. So it says, okay, I'm going to open the work order and open a small Visualforce controller that's going to render it as a PDF with a UI that's got download and return. So that's good. It's going to give me a controller at Visualforce, add the button, put it on the layout. So the assumption here is that the page exists, which it does. And now it wants to confirm the name of the page. It accepts ID and open a new tab. Okay, so now it's thought a little bit more and it says, okay, I need to confirm the page, API name, and do I want a button to open in a new tab, which is recommended. So let's say, yes, that is the name of the page. I use as an ID and I want to open a new tab. If you wanted to add more, you can just keep typing and it will just continue thinking about it. But I like that option. So let's see what we get. So you can see it start building. And so it's starting off with a controller that's going to give me some things, and it's asking, do you want to, okay, is it okay to create this? Again, I can put more details if I want to make changes before it's saved, but I'll go ahead with that. Now it's giving me the meta file. Sometimes it forgets to do that, which is then you can't actually deploy, but this time it remembered. So now I'm getting a page. Here you can see it's starting to do my download and my return. So I'll just take that. Now I'm getting the meta file for that. Okay, now it's doing, I thought we already had this. Okay, it's giving me another controller. And then the meta file for that. Okay. Now here's my button. Wow, I see S control in here. That's very old school. There was S controls when I first started in Salesforce, but let's see what happens with this. I have a feeling that that's not going to go. All right. Do you want me to automatically add the button to a work order layout? And yes, I do. I have only one, I believe. So I'll just say add it to all of them. So now it's putting the button into the page layout. And now it's looking up what layouts do you have. Okay, now it's done. So it hasn't actually deployed anything, but it's just saved it all here for me to deploy. Whoops, let's go back and just review. So we've got some controllers. I've got my wrapper page and I've got my button. It said no layout data. Okay, couldn't do the layout. Well, that's okay, we can do that. And now it's saying you can deploy. Now I've tried, let me just see if it can do it for us. Deploy the new data. Otherwise I can do it. So now it's looking to see what org we're connected to, which is my Vibes demo org. Oops. So it's got my username. Now, let's see, it's trying again. If it doesn't do it, I'll just go do it myself. No, okay, we'll just do it. So if we come in here, I'll do my classes. I can just do it this way.
Nikki, we have a question. They were wondering
Sure.
if you pulled the metadata of the layout in like if you open the layout, like do we have it or like
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't pull anything.
Okay.
And in the past, it's been able to like go into the org and look to see what the layouts are. This time it didn't seem to do that. So that
So
would be
the
a good
question
trial
was,
to
do
see
we
it.
need to download the metadata? Like if we are
Yeah.
planning for it to edit the layout, do you need to like pull it from the org in order to be able to edit, or it can go without having it in
Well,
the builder?
I've seen it work before that I don't think I pulled it down. I
Okay,
could try, I'm just conscious of time, but we could try pulling it down and then ask the prompt again. But I think for time's sake, I'm just going to keep going. Otherwise, Warren's going to run out of time for that. But that's a good, yeah, that's a good point. I'll definitely take a look at that after.
sure. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I didn't like that. Okay, I didn't like my button. Yeah, I think this button's a bit messed up. Okay, let's start with what we've got. So we've got our page and we've got a button that needs to go to this page. I'm just going to create that so we can keep going. All right, so let me go back here. And once we see what this looks like, then I want to try for a little more of a modern approach with an LWC because I feel like it's providing me a Visualforce solution because I started with a Visualforce page. I was wondering about that because I thought it was kind of interesting that it didn't start with an LWC. But anyway, okay, let's just add this button and see what it looks like. I think Salesforce doesn't want us to use buttons anymore because it's always, for me anyway, it takes like 20 seconds to open up the page. They want quick actions only. All right. So we'll do work order PDF version 1 and save. Okay. Oh, I forgot to make it sorry, I forgot to make it a page detail button. Oops. Okay, here we go. Okay. Well, that is the page. It's not looking very amazing. Now, did I put, let me see my button. So you can say whether it should be in a new page or with, I think we'll change it so that it's got the header and the sidebar, because otherwise it looks pretty weird. Okay. Oh, we got this as well. Okay, let me just go back. Refresh. Maybe that was it opening it up for me. Oh, I see. Yeah, that was it opening for me. Okay, so I asked for buttons to download and go back, which, it did. And then it said, okay, it'll open for you in a new tab. Now, I know that things when you want to render as PDF, it doesn't look as good if you just do it HTML. Like, for example, that's my footer. It's supposed to be at the bottom of the page and it's really wide. So anyway, so maybe viewing it is not really what we want. And this page is okay, but it's kind of old school looking and it's not sitting up on top, which I think would be better. Plus it's using Visualforce, so maybe not what we want. But it's good, and it does this weird double thing. So not bad for a first time, but let's ask for something better. So my next prompt, oops, where did it go? Is here. Can you have a similar approach, but use an LWC to display the Visualforce page? So do you want to open in a modal from the work order page? Yes. Navigate to a full page. I don't know, I'll ask the button to open it, obviously, with current record. Okay, before I do that, let's go to and pull my layout down, just in case that gives it a bit more. Let's see, layouts, I'll just pull them all down. Okay, so I want to open in a modal from the work order page. Okay, so now it's starting to build up my LWC. Do you like that? Okay, it's giving me the script for it. Now here, I think this is looking good. I can put on the record page. I want to see if I can also add it to the flow in case I want to put it in a flow page. So let's just put, before you save it, let's say, add the flow screen to the targets. So that's in this section here. So now it's going to build it again. Okay, and there you can see we've got our targets for flow screen, so we'll be able to add it later. Okay, save that. Okay, so now we have a lightning component. Now, did it create a button for us? Let's see. Add parent WC launcher in action. My goodness. Okay. How to use. Okay, so as a flow screen, bring it into a flow or a quick action. Okay, let's see if we can get it to add. I know I have tried a flow. It doesn't usually work, but let's just give it a shot. And if not, I have my own flow we can add it to. Okay, let's first deploy. I'm just going to do it myself because we're running out of time here. So let's go to our LWC, which is here. Let's deploy that. Oh boy. Okay, so key attribute value should be an expression. What have we got here? This is in our HTML, which is, now I have a lot of things open. Let me just get rid of some of this here. Okay. PD doesn't, I don't think it likes that. So that's the previewer. Okay, I'm going to just take that out for this purpose. Let's see if we can get rid of that. I think we decided anyway, showing the Visualforce in an iframe or any other page doesn't really help us because it needs to be in a PDF. Okay, so that is fine. So let's see if it can create, actually, I'm gonna just, for the time purposes here, I'm just gonna add this, look at the Visualforce page and add it into our flow first because we are running low on time. Okay, so let's check out, I have a flow ready. Okay, so in a screen, I should now see this. Open modal true. Okay, so this is my WC, and this is my record ID. Okay, so I'm passing in the record ID that I'd already set up for here. All right, so let's see what that looks like. Well, that does not look like much, does it? Okay, let's try another approach. Let's put it in the Lightning page. Yesterday, in my testing, I came up with a really nice LWC. Let's see. We can put it on a record page. See if it looks better without being in the flow. So I'm just going to add a tab here. And okay, we don't have any inputs. I guess that might be a problem. Yeah, I feel like the problem is that we don't have, let's go back to our ID. Well, so far I'm less than impressed. What is this supposed to do? It's supposed to show us our title. We're supposed to have a download button and a back to work order, open and read. Look at all these options. And then we have a close in our footer. So it all looks like it should work. Now, I think what I'll do, because we have about 4 minutes left in my first half an hour, is maybe what we'll do is pass it on to Warren. I'll do a little bit of troubleshooting in the meantime. We come back, because when I did this yesterday, it actually did give me a nice screen with buttons. Right now, it's a little bit confused. So how about we do that, Sally?
Yeah, for
Are there
sure.
any other questions besides how come it's not working that I can answer with what I did?
Someone is suggesting if it's a permission issue or field level security that is causing
Yeah,
the issue. So, but yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
I'll
I
check that.
think we can move on to Warren and then take your time, and after that we can switch back. And also, if Nikki, you have the output you had from yesterday testing, we can look into it and get a sense. Like, and it's normal. Like generative AI can work as expected one time, another time it doesn't work. So
Yeah,
if you have the other output as well, maybe we can see it towards the end as well to
sure.
give an idea of what
Yeah.
you got as well. Thank you so
and I
much.
mean, I'll definitely say that you can't be vibe coding without any knowledge of LWCs or whatever. Like this is just goes to show, right? You've got to know enough to be able to at least troubleshoot. And if you don't understand what you're building or what Vibes is building for you, then it's
Yeah, and I love
The
this
other piece of it, I
fundamental.
think,
Sorry, Scott.
What's that, Scott?
so I was just going to say real quick, the other piece of it is they call it the magic of AI, which 80% accuracy.
Yeah,
So when we do things in Agentforce, our testing has to be, does it work 5 times in a row?
yeah,
If it doesn't, keep accounting for it. And that's probably what you ran into.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It changes its.
It's still
Yeah,
pretty neat stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay,
I
thank you.
always tell to everyone who's using like Agentforce Vibes, like it's not a replacement to our Salesforce development. Like because some beginners now tends to like, I don't need to learn anymore. Agentforce Vibes or other AI tools will do everything for me. And I always say it's there to support, accelerate our like implementation, but we need to be able to give the right like prompt to like if we have an issue or it's not working as expected or it give us an output that is not accurate, like the knowledge and our understanding to coding and how to do things ourselves will help us overcome this issue. So yeah, but let's move on to Warren, and thank you so much in advance.
Yeah, no problem. And totally agree with what Sally, Scott, and Nikki are saying about making sure that the things that are getting generated, the things that are getting created, you need to be able to understand every line that it's creating. These are tools that will help speed up implementation, like write a lot of boilerplate for you, but they are not good enough to write the entire thing flawlessly as we're seeing in here. And the models change. These things are trained on large sets of data. And it's a lot of different coding languages are used and input into these things. So, talking about the magic of AI, you can write the same prompt, 2 or 3 times, one right after each other, and you'll get different responses. And that's definitely what we'll probably see today in my demo as well, because I'm going to go through, and do a few different things. And in my testing throughout the week, I've gotten different responses on each time. But yeah, we'll jump into it and kind of talk through how they work. And I think it'll probably help out Nikki and all of you in some of the things that I'm going to show in terms of some of the things that I was seeing you all do. The MCPs and some of the things that I'll talk about will really help in streamlining that process. So let's set the stage. We've got boats and boat types, and very simple. There's different types of boats that you can have: yacht, catamaran, all of these boats. And really, the only fields that are on here is the boat name and the minimum price. Then you can have a bunch of different boats. There's a few different fields on it. Also, this may look familiar to some of you because I think this is from the LWC Super Badge or something like that. So there's a few different boats. All the boats have a type, and also they have a price that is associated with them. So the requirements that I'm giving this is that if we set a price on a boat type, right, a minimum price, then all of the related children that get created also should have at least that minimum price, right? If this was at $1,000 and we updated the boat type, the minimum price to, 221K, this should automatically update all of the related boats in there. So, my idea behind this is really just making sure that the individual boats are up to that minimum price that we're looking at. And overall, this is just to demonstrate how you can use MCPs to gather metadata and do other things. So let's kind of take a step back a little bit. Those are the requirements. Now let's talk about MCPs. It's not something I created. It's not something I'll even say that I'm a master of, but I do understand how to use them, when to use certain ones, and especially ones that can help speed us up in Salesforce development. So MCPs are the Modal Context Protocol. It's basically just a way that your LLMs, your AI can communicate, can talk with other, I'm going to say tools, other uh, abilities that you can give it. So I like to think of them, especially when I was first starting out and learning about them. These are basically just APIs that you can give access to your chat interface, your um, Agentforce Vibes, your chat GPTs, all of that. They're just little, let's say APIs, little integrations in the simplest form. It's not actually what's happening, but in the simplest form, it's little uh, additional features that you can give these tools so that they can do extra things. And you see some examples on here. Where it's like, okay, an MCP is a standardized way of connecting with like Slack, Google, Git, a bunch of other things in here. Because by default, Agentforce Vibes, all of these different LLMs, ChatGPT, they're self-contained, right? They can produce a lot of stuff and they look really great, but they can't reach out to send a Slack message, or they can't interact with my GitHub account, or they can't interact with my Salesforce metadata. So the developers build these MCPs to give additional functionality to your LLMs and the tools that you're using. And it's in a standardized way so that the LLMs can understand them a lot better. So there are a ton of MCPs, some a little more useful than others in terms of Salesforce, and we'll probably come back to this page. But just some like words of warning if you're experimenting with these, looking at some of these, you definitely want to look for some that are created by the owners of that specific product, right? So like Salesforce has the Salesforce DX MCP. There's a few others like GitHub, there's Slack, all of those you want to try to I'd recommend sticking with one that is created by the actual company versus, anybody can technically create these, and there's some risk that is involved with that. All right, so let's jump into it. I know that Nikki was looking at the Agentforce Vibes that was in the browser. I'm also going to be using Agentforce Vibes, but this is in your IDE, right? So in your VS Code, in your cursor, which is probably a tool that a lot of you have been hearing about lately. But in order to get access to Agentforce Vibes and the Vibes extension, all you need to do is make sure that you all have installed the Salesforce extension pack, right? So the normal Salesforce extension pack whenever you are getting set up with your VS Code or your whichever IDE you're using. And then there will be an option for the Agentforce Vibes little Cody Bear that you can have here. So this is what it looks like. It's very similar in terms of the structures of features. They're all the same in terms of the web browser versus having it done locally. But I just prefer to have my IDE because it just gives me a little more power, and I get to use my keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so we know the requirements. We need to make a change, make an update from the whenever we update a boat type minimum price, we need it to then update all of the related children if they do not match up. So I've got a prompt prepared here because nobody wants to see me fumble through typing. And this is where your existing knowledge of Salesforce and triggers, coding best practices will come into play because I've got a prompt with some specific terminology in here already that you would have needed to have figured out or know just from your fundamental knowledge of Salesforce development. So for example, right, I'm saying create a trigger on the boat type that looks at the minimum price and finds the related boats, all the stuff that we just mentioned. Really quickly, and one thing to kind of bring up, I have no MCPs enabled right now, so I'm going to try to see if it can figure it out with it. I want to do like a trial run, so I'm going to send that through. And what I'm hoping, or what we're going to see, is that it's not going to do a really great job, right? Right now, it's planning out what it's going to do. We can kind of see that we're identifying the boat type record. There's minimum price that we want to look at as well, and it's going ahead and just plugging away and starting to create this stuff. And as we're seeing, as it's starting to create things, I can hit save, hit yes. We just saw this with Niki. Some things that we can kind of pick up on, right? As it's creating stuff, some of these are incorrect. Like I think we're on version, what, like 63, 65 now. So it's a little outdated in terms of the metadata that it's creating. But it's at least creating this metadata.xml file, which is required. So it's going ahead, creating these values. It's creating a handler class, which is actually really nice for us to see it doing, because that is one of the best practices when it comes to triggers. And it is actually creating a test class, which we didn't ask it to do in the original prompt, but it's going ahead and being a little proactive in what it is doing. So this is all based on the models that we are running, and right now it's running a pro model. You are able to change, well, in other applications you are able to change these, and there are limits depending on your org type and how much you can use this stuff for. So it says that it's done. Let's actually try to deploy all of this. We see we've got a trigger over here and some classes. I'm going in, right click, deploy. And what we're going to find out is this is not going to work. It's missing columns because this isn't actually the correct name of the of this object, right? And if we try to deploy this as well, it's going to get it wrong. And we can see up at the top here that it's boat without an underscore type. And I really don't know why it's done that way, but it ended up being a good example, right? That came from Salesforce and the process there. So that didn't work that well. So I'm just going to delete all of this stuff and kind of start over, and I'm going to enable my Salesforce DX MCP, and I'm going to pray that the demo gods will make this work properly. So when you use Agentforce Vibes, it has a built-in or already enabled MCP or ready to go Salesforce DX MCP. So I'm gonna click on Manage MCP Servers and click that little check mark for yes. And now what this is doing is enabling the Salesforce DX MCP. While that's running, you can kind of check it out in the GitHub documentation over here. And really, one of the cool things or the interesting things is all of the tools that this allows you to do. So basically, this MCP gives your LLMs more information, more capability as a tool set to interact with certain things inside of your org. So as long as you're authenticated in the correct org, we can take certain actions against it. So for example, in metadata, we can deploy and retrieve metadata. In testing, we can run our tests. So this gives your LLM the ability to run these different tools. Let me go back here, metadata, run these different tools without me having to do it, right? Like we saw me right click and deploy, and I think Niki did something similar, right? We right clicked and deployed inside of our org, which is fine, but the tools are now within MCP, we're giving our LLMs tools so that it can do that for us. And you may be okay with that, you may not be, but we'll talk about that in a second. So same exact prompt at the start, but I added in this particular a line in here, and I'm saying use the Salesforce DX MCP to retrieve the boat and the boat type so you can understand the field. So instead of me pulling them down, and I'm a lazy programmer, I don't want to right click and go to the org browser and download them, I can use this I can use the MCP to do that for me automatically. And then I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to say also use the Salesforce DX MCP to deploy the code into my org for me. So same steps, but all of the manual things that I ran a second ago, it is now doing it for me, right? It is now going ahead and doing that process. So whenever you run an MCP server, it is going to give you some warnings, or it's going to ask for your approval and tell you what it's going to do and give you some understanding behind that. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And let's see what it's doing now. Still processing, figuring out my org. And of course, like I've run this a bunch of times, so I generally know what's coming through. If you are running these yourself, especially for the first time, you don't just want to be clicking through all of these. You want to make sure to read everything that's happening because some of these are dangerous, right? Especially as you start moving into some of the other MCPs where it can delete your entire database, where it's uploading or changing data around. All of that stuff is can be destructive to your org, so you want to make sure that everything is going properly. So now I've run into this issue before, but what it's trying to do is get a manifest.xml and download all of the files. I'm going to let it run just so that we can kind of see um, how everything, like how some of this stuff will play out as you're going along. But ideally, it shouldn't need to, like in other practice runs that I've done, it was able to pull my metadata directly without a XML file. But this is some of the try writing the manifest trial again. I'm going to try that and see what happens. This is some of the issues with, working with these tools is that they're, I think it's non-deterministic, right? Like you run it once and you get one thing out, you run it a second time and it's doing something completely different. So we can try. I'm just going to continue to try to push through it. Try again to download the metadata files and just see what happens. And you can interject as it's going along. Um, sure. Let's go with this as it starts processing down. But so with these certain prompts and with the stuff that we're seeing, is it actually ready? I don't see any files in here. The idea is that this should be able to work and it should be faster than me going in, pulling in my metadata, or it automatically grabbing these values without me having to do it, right? So without me needing to go through the process and telling it specifically what it needs.
Warren,
Sally, I see you have your
yeah,
hand up. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
we have a question. Like, would you think like if we download like the metadata and add it as a context, like that would be a safer approach to like not consume so many API requests to download the metadata? Like we can use the add and point to the objects we want if we have it in the project. Do you prefer going that route or do you prefer to retrieve it with the MCP server?
So it really depends on my workflow. If I know that I'm working with a lot of different objects and I don't have them pulled down locally already, then I may ask, the MCP, I may use the MCP server to actually process and go through with it. If I know exactly what I need and I'm working on 1 to 2 objects, so like this example, um, oh, let's see what's going on there. For this example, I may just pull them down and go from that side of things. But um, there's certain things I'm gonna say like with this model and with the different tools that we're using that it's still a little, I'll say sluggish. But as we get options for other models and other metadata, it ends up being a lot faster to just have the LLM pull what it needs so that it has the references that we're looking for. So all that to be said, it really depends on what type of interaction I'm going for. And we can see for this one, it's not working very well, but in other instances, it's been able to pull it on the first shot and not really go through all of this metadata issues that it's having right now. And I could force it, right? I could keep like just wasting requests and forcing it that way. Or like once I see that we're having issues with metadata this bad, then I might just pull them myself. But in a perfect world and in an ideal scenario, it should be able to pull that, especially with the semi-detailed prompt that we gave it. So I hope that helps. I kind of want to move on just in case, but this is an idea behind it. You can see it's starting to figure it out, right? In terms of it knows that it's boat type underscore underscore C, but it just has not pulled that metadata properly yet. But I'm going to keep moving on just for the sake of time. And some of it is also like how detailed you want to get with your prompts, right? Because this is generally pretty easy, but when you're talking about pulling multiple triggers so you have a reference, pulling multiple objects, metadata types, and all of that stuff, it ends up being a little bit it if you prompt the LLM correctly, it can pull all of that stuff for you instead of you needing to do it. So all right, I just pulled it manually because it's taking a little bit longer to go through, and then I'm just going to run that same code, and then we'll hopefully take a look at some of the other MCPs. So while this is running, and it's kind of got it now. While this is running, we want to make sure that everything that it is creating is doing it up to the correct like specification. But a lot of the stuff that you feed into these LLMs, it's really about the context, right? Like context is the best way for you to get really great results. So that's why adding in those metadata pieces will really help it be correct. I'm going to enable edits so I don't have to hit save every time, but this is also, these checkboxes are generally pretty dangerous, right? As you start making more stuff and allowing it to do more things. So I'm going to run this. I can see it creating my handler class, which is really great, and going through the rest of the process that we need here. So once it's done with that, I'm going to say use the Salesforce. Oh, it might be doing it itself over here. I was going to say use the MCP to do a deployment, but it's already checking my org and it's doing a deployment over here for me. So like this is some of the stuff that's really nice, right? It's going to do a deployment for me. And if there are any errors in the deployment, it'll start just fixing itself as it goes along, which is really, it's a really big time saver as you start coding more and more things, right? So it's just using that MCP and automatically doing the deployment inside of Salesforce.
Will it
And
execute the test class?
it will execute the test classes. I think only if I tell it to. So right
Mm.
now I've burned through a lot of my limits, so I'm on a slower model. So we'll see what the results are like. But we can see everything that's created over here, which we just have a handler class and a trigger. And what's really great, what everybody should be doing, especially when you're working with this stuff, make sure to use your GitHub to start tracking your changes because this stuff is creating a lot of stuff. Create a test class. It's creating a lot of stuff, and you need to be able to keep track of the things that it's generating. So make sure that if there's one thing that you take away from this, start learning Git and GitHub and how to use these version control tools. Because as soon as you start using any of these vibe coding, AI coding tools, it'll generate a lot of stuff, and you will have no idea like where you started from, where you came from, and all of that. So generating a test class looks like we did fairly decent with that. And you can see we don't have enough time right now for me to review all of the code, but I would be going and reviewing, each line to make sure that it is doing, what is correct, what is necessary in terms of best practices. And we can see here that it's trying to deploy the test class and it got an error. So status failed over here. And it's making some adjustments by itself. And now it made those adjustments. And now it's probably going to redeploy the test class again until it finally works. And we'll see if it runs the test. So we can see that the status has succeeded. It didn't run the test. But we could also say like, okay, run the test class, make sure our test coverage is 75%, right? So this is some of the things that you can do with just the Salesforce DX MCP. It's acting or it's taking actions with those tools that it has for us, doing deployments, very badly retrieving metadata, and it can run our test classes. So that's just one example, and this one is pretty useful for Salesforce developers. One of the other things I want to show off, if you're in these Agentforce Vibes extension, there's MCP servers, and there is a whole like host of MCPs that I mentioned before. And you can just browse around, kind of see what MCPs are really good or what interests you, right? One of the ones that I love to use is actually Context 7. So this gives your LLMs up-to-date documentation information. So it's super useful for you to just make sure that you're pulling in documentation. Because if you've ever gone to like Salesforce, I don't know, Apex, assert tests, right? Like if you've ever gone to this page, copied everything and pasted it into your test class, because like some of these are wrong, right? Like we don't really use system asserts anymore. Right, this is where an MCP like Context 7 would come into play, because you can just say reference the latest documentation from Salesforce and make an update. So I'm going to actually install that MCP manually. You can run through it in the same way. So your MCPs are just a JSON file that you have in here. And I'm going to add in, because I've already got it set, I'm going to add in my Context 7 local. Ooh, is it going to pick it up? Am I in the right spot? Looks like it. Or let me try this one. Oh, configure my servers. This is saved. Let's try adding it over here. And I know we only have like 2 minutes left.
We
Is
have a
there
quick question.
Salesforce hosted MCP servers?
So the Salesforce CLI is Salesforce hosted, right? It's theirs. Some of these other ones that we're looking at are created by other companies, and you can see the companies themselves, right? And some are just created by individuals, which are the ones that are a little more dangerous to have created. So I'll kind of pause there. These are supposed to be pulled in, but we're not seeing them in here right now. One of the things that I would do here is say, I would have a prompt like here. I've got it ready to go. Paste that in. Use Context 7 to get documentation on Salesforce test classes. Make sure that we're doing the best practices in our test classes. And what this will do is it'll use Context 7, which has really great documentation, and then give our LLM that context of whatever the documentation pages are, and then it will then make updates to our test so that it is doing a little bit better, right? Doing a better job. I'm actually, yeah, so I'll pause there. I've got some thoughts on just general things about like the Agentforce Vibes extension versus using other extensions, but I would definitely, like, if you're looking at this stuff, the Salesforce DX extension is a good one to start playing around with, and this one is created by Salesforce, right? It is in beta, so you have to just be aware of that. But as you start poking around with different extensions and MCPs, it'll open up a whole floodgates of like what is possible for just your agent to do by itself while it's working, completely. And yeah, I'm open to questions, thoughts, comments, in the last, what we got, like 3 minutes.
There was a question like the JSON you put in the MCP configuration for Context 7, is that you got it from the Context 7 documentation, or like you just how to know how to do it? That was a question.
Yeah, so that's a really great one. Most of the MCPs have their either a GitHub page, documentation, right? So this is for Context 7. You can see it a bunch of different ways on how to install it, and there's even options without having.
We were
Oh,
seeing
can
the
you see my
test
screen?
classes, but yeah, now we see the Context 7. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just the Context 7 GitHub repo. right? So it'll give you multiple instructions on how to do it. You can even ask your LLM to set it up for you, right? And that's kind of what's happening when we hit install over here. It'll just go, it already has instructions on how to install the MCP, right? If it works, unsure. But I normally configure it in the JSON way because it's pretty easy.
Amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you know
And there
what?
is another
I'm
question.
just
Yeah.
sure.
If there are other MCP servers that you played with and you would recommend, like other than Contact 7 and for sure Salesforce DX MCP?
Are there other ones that I would recommend?
Yeah.
There's a lot. I've played around with a bunch. Ones that are useful for Salesforce are definitely Contact 7, and we can see it start like plowing through now that I've configured the um the JSON correctly. Um some of the ones that I use, right? Puppeteer, which is one something that can control your browser, so you can tell it to look at like your LWC and fix things on its own. The GitHub MCP is also very useful. Um, and I'm trying to think of other ones. So I would probably start with those. And then like I'm super lazy, so there's a Notion MCP where you can literally say like update my to-do list with whatever the thing is, and it'll do it in here and just update your Notion to-do list. But those are a little, it depends on how lazy you want to be, how much work you want to do inside of the LLM itself versus like just going to the app and changing things up.
Okay. Yeah.
And I configured it correctly now. Just really quickly, it pulled down, it used Context 7 to get some best practices for Apex testing, right? So it's basically just feeding it all a lot of documentation related to that. And then it just went through and made some of those updates that we were looking for. It doesn't look like it found the assert ones properly, but it did make some changes as it was going through. So yeah, that I'll stop there. I'll stop there.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. I know you have, both of you have hard stop. I don't know, Nikki, like you have time to show. I know you have an
Yeah,
updated
I
LWC.
can spend a couple minutes extra
Okay.
if people want to see a
Okay.
prompt that worked.
And Warren, if you have to drop, I know you have a meeting. Thank you so much for your time and being here with us today on the session. Really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure. And yeah, thanks everybody for having me.
problem.
Thanks, Sally, so much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay,
Adios.
I'll just share my screen again. So I tried another prompt. This time I said, build an LWC that can open the Visualforce page. I gave it the name with render as variable equals PDF. Make the LWC available in a flow or record page. So that's what I said this time. And it built me this LWC. It's still using the controller class that it had for the first attempt. And so I added that into here. So now I'm going to show, I've got both. So this is the first one, not as exciting. And then this is the second one it gave me. So here it's showing me a teeny tiny version of it. And then I can open it in a new tab. So now it's going to so I can download it. And I've got sort of a finish button so I can go back to the page. So I think I would still work on this. It's not exactly what I like, but at least it's giving me what I wanted, which is I can preview, I can open it, and I can close it, and I'm still looking at the work order in the background. So that's how that ended.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that's this sample of like how prompts and how we can change in the prompt and the wording of the prompt may impact the output as well. So sometimes I say to everyone, like if you have a prompt that you spend so much time on it, or you, in order to build a good one to do something you love, think about ways to save it. And one of the ways is either to have it as a code snippet in Visual Studio Code, or even if you have it as a repetitive task that you would love to do it, you can explore doing it as a workflow inside the Agentforce Vibes. And we tested that before in one of the Code with Sally sessions, and we saw how we saved a repetitive prompt that we love, and we used it across multiple times to do the same task on different classes or to document different ways, different things in our org. So thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate your time, and it was great to have you here with us. And thank you so much for everyone who joined the session or will be watching offline. We have multiple videos on Code with Sally, how to set it up, like explaining the extension and how to use it. And also, we had a long session for 8 use cases, from documentation to technical debt solutions. So if you didn't see those videos, I encourage you to check it out on the channel. You'll have useful information. And thank you for Warren. Unfortunately, he had to go. And for Nikki, and I really appreciate your time today. And it was a great pleasure to have you with us today in the session. And we'll see you again soon, for sure, for other like topics. And I'm sure we can learn a lot from both of you. And I really appreciate your time.